Hey guys, so we're back with part 2. So I ended it with the last video with that statement that Jessica Maroney made, and it was very damning. So I'm going to get more into the facts of what actually happened. So it says here, Jessica Maroney had a dispute with Sasha Exeter. This is a BBC article that I found, over her support for the anti-racism protest sweep in the US. Miss Exeter said the TV presenter, a close friend of Meghan Markle, threatened to damage her career. Miss Maroney, 40, has since apologised to Miss Exeter, accepting that she should have done more to speak out against racism. On Thursday, Canadian network CTV said Miss Maroney's reality TV show, I Do Redo, had been removed with immediate effect. So she got punished quite adequately. Well, I can't really say that the punishment wasn't warranted. Neither of these ladies have shared the full dialogue of what exactly happened, but we know that obviously Maroney was exercising, I would say it was a white privilege in part, because Sasha compared what she experienced from Jessica Maroney to the Amy Cooper incident. There was this Amy Cooper incident, I think it was in May, whereby this black guy was in Central Park, New York, and he was bird watching, and this lady called Amy Cooper came along and she called the police on him. He asked her to put her dog on a leash and she called the police on him and accused him of doing something that he was threatening her. And she happened to turn out to be someone who was in a very powerful, prominent position, which was extremely embarrassing. And she was trying to essentially get this guy locked up and arrested. Now, everyone knows the damning effects of what happens when you call the police on a black man. If you call the police on a black man, make sure it's for a good reason, because it's really not going to end well for him. We know that they are disproportionately arrested, manhandled and killed in police custody. She compared her experience with Jessica Maroney to the Amy Cooper incident. She said, my Amy Cooper experience. I think she probably does deserve this punishment. And I know people can say, oh, you're just saying this because, you know, you're a dark-skinned black woman and you don't really know. Because I've read quite a few of the comments and I'm putting them in the video as I speak to you guys. I've read quite a few of the comments on Jessica Maroney's apology. I haven't really read her apology because I think the damage is done and you shouldn't have to be chastised or lose all your TV shows in order to recognize that this movement is a big movement, and whether you like it or not, you have to acknowledge it in some kind of way. That's just how big it's gotten. For me personally, I've had a lot of mixed emotions regarding the George Floyd movement, but I've kept them to myself because I know that this movement has gotten to the point whereby it's a global movement. Like, it's one of the biggest movements in living memory in history that we've ever seen. I think we're saying that a lot this year. You know, there's never been a time in history where all planes have been landed on the ground and travel has been stopped. So this is one of the most awkward times in history where the unthinkable is happening. And I happen to be a black woman who has in the past on my channel touched upon race and the complexities of racism and what it is to be black and what it is to be biracial. Through my eyes, I can never really speak about biracial issues and what it is to be of the two races. But there's so much going on now regarding race, and COVID seems to have spewed out all of these facts and statistics that we simply can't ignore. The brown people are disproportionately affected by COVID. And we're still trying to get to the bottom of why that is. Now, most people have concluded, oh, it's due to black people being at an economic disadvantage due to systematic racism, systematic structures that inevitably, no matter what they do, keeps them at the bottom unless they work for themselves and they do something independent outside of this system. And that's black and brown people, so that's Asian people included. There's so many complexities going on that it's hard even for me as a person of colour to say anything. Now, I'm sure you guys, especially if you're American, you've heard of a lady called Candice Owens. And she actually popped up online and she said quite a few inflammatory things about George Floyd. And she was highlighting his criminal past and various things that he's done. And I'm not going to go into it because she is being punished. She had a GoFundMe page where she was fundraising for a business in, I think it was Minneapolis. And she's being punished. So it's one of those, it's gotten to a point where this movement has gotten so big, whereas even as a person of colour, you can't say much. And unless you're fulfilling the status quo of what everyone wants to go along with, you are pretty much, you just shouldn't be saying much. And if you are a prominent figure, I see that there seems to be a lot of disingenuous pressure put on brands that aren't really for the movement, but they seem to be sharing content regarding the movement, even though their practices haven't really changed. And I'm not going to say that on here because it's simply just a waste of time me saying that, but I've seen a lot of hypocrisy and I shared that on my Instagram feed. So what I think of the movement, I'm keeping it to myself, guys, until everyone's raw emotions have died down. I think we need to get through 2020 in one piece before people start really speaking how they really want to speak. We're all roughed up. We are all emotionally, we've been dragged out, okay? All of us, black, white, Asian included. This year has been one of the most stressful years of my life, and I think that goes for everyone. A lot of people have lost people. Bad stuff has just been happening. It's just been bad, right? I'm gonna stick to the script. She lost her show, and Jessica Maroney comes from a dynasty of wealth, so I don't think she really cares anyway. But I think she does care. I think it's more her reputation that she cares about more. She doesn't need the money. Her family has a prominent 120 stores across Canada, so she's not begging for a dollar. And her husband, Ben Mulroney, well, he's the son of a former prime minister, very well connected. She will not be going without a piece of chicken. So I'm going to carry on with my notes here. The network's announcement was made after Miss Exeter recounted details of her argument with Miss Mulroney in a 12-minute long video posted to her Instagram page. So I did watch this and I thought a few things during this speech. Miss Exeter said Miss Mulroney took offence with her promotion of Black Lives Matter movement, which has spearheaded protests in response to the killing of George Floyd in police custody. What happened next was a series of very problematic behaviour and antics that ultimately resulted in her, Miss Mulroney, sending me a threat in writing last Wednesday, Miss Exeter said. The social media influencer, who has more than 100,000 followers on Instagram, said the threat was a textbook example of white privilege. She didn't share all of the dialogue that they had, but from what I gather, they were texting, so they seem to have not only been messaging on Instagram. Mulroney ended up blocking her on Instagram, but they were also having this fight over text. And she summarised it with her Amy Cooper white privilege experience. Anyway, so it carries on. In a message to Miss Exeter, Miss Mulroney allegedly wrote, "I have also spoken to companies and people about the way you have treated me unfairly." The message, Miss Exeter said, left her paralysed in fear. And then she said she's very well aware of her wealth, her perceived power and perceived privilege because of the colour of her skin, and that my friends gave her the momentary confidence to come for my livelihood in writing, she said. She also expressed disappointment that Miss Maroney had not used her platform to support Black Lives Matter despite being very vocal about other causes. So she felt hypocrisy in Miss Maroney not using her platform for the good, not using her platform to share and partake in the feelings that she's feeling as a friend, a close friend of hers. And doesn't that kind of sound very similar to what Meghan Markle does? The hypocrisy of it all. She says that she cares about black people. She says that she came to those ladies in South Africa as their sister. She said, I come to you as a sister, as a woman of colour. And then she went on to moan about her own life and hasn't even called her real sister, her biological sister. How can she be their sister when she's not even bothering with her real sister? So the hypocrisy of it all, I can see the way in which that stirred up the rage and the anger. And right now, people have been very angry and they've gotten very emotional and they're in their feelings. And I think Sasha just saw this hypocrisy of Jessica Maroney shamelessly promoting her ABC show, I think it is I Do Before I Redo. And she just felt angry. She felt infuriated. She felt unheard. She felt like she was being disingenuous. But let's face it, Meghan Markle is very disingenuous, so it wouldn't be surprising that her best friend, her mirror, would be the same. A lot of these people that Meghan Markle is surrounded by, you will start to see, I think we will see more hypocrisy, like with Harry and Skippy. Skippy's allegedly planning after lockdown to fly on his company's private plane to visit Harry because they want their kid Archie and his son to grow up together because he's living in New York, I think it is. Skippy's living in New York. So you can see this hypocrisy spewing out. So it carries on to say, Miss Maroney's friendship with one of the most famous black women in the world, referring to Miss Markle. She says that she perceives Meghan Markle to be a black woman. I personally don't, but what I think is quite surprising, and she even said it herself, is that Jessica Maroney is friends with Meghan Markle, who is a woman of colour. We can agree on that. And yet she was it seems to be very ignorant of the relevancy of this movement. And that just really demonstrates, guys, that Meghan Markle has been presenting and using black racism and black issues that dark-skinned people just can't ever get away from. George Floyd didn't get away from it, as an angle to get what she wanted, which was to get out of the royal family, to get out of her royal duties, to go and have this really fantastic, fabulous career in LA. That's what Meghan Markle did. But in her private life, Meghan Markle, it seems for her, Jessica Maroney to be so ignorant, has been living as a white woman. Should I do a part 3 on this, guys? I think I'm going to do a part 3 on this, guys. So take care, and I'll be back with part 3. Bye, guys.